My name is Pat Adams, a spiritual director and blogger about the spiritual life. The consuming interest of my life has been this: how do we live a life centered in God? And yet deeper still, who am I really? What is my purpose? How do I connect deeply with God? These are the questions I will address in this video series. We aren't the terrible people, the sinners we think we are. We were created by God with free will, and in every decision we make, we face a myriad of choices. Sometimes we choose wisely, affirming the best of who we are, following God's teachings, and sometimes we don't. God is not surprised by this or by how we turn out. In this talk, I want to lay out my reasoning for why this is so. First of all, we have to consider the nature of God, at least as far as it is knowable. Our God created this whole universe, every rock, every plant and animal, insect, planet, star, asteroid, comet, dark matter, and everything else, maybe even multiple universes, according to cosmologists today. Within the wide range of creation, there is infinite variety in color, texture, design, function, and more. Not only did he create such variety, but also he envisioned a huge interdependent system in which the created plants and animals meet the needs of each other. Just think of the lowly beetle, for instance. There are 250,000 species of beetles in the world. That means that God created that many varieties of beetles, or he created one or more with the ability to morph into different kinds, depending on their environment. Beetles contribute to all life as nutrient recyclers. Can you imagine with me the kind of mind that could design these beetles? I can't. In August 2011, scientists estimated that there were 7.77 million species of animals, 298,000 species of plants, 611,000 fungi, 36,400 of protozoa, and 27,500 chromists, brown algae and the like, for a total of 8.74 million species of living things just on Earth. Given the immense variety of species just here on Earth, I would argue that God, who created all of them, was not surprised when he found out that we were not that obedient. He gave us free will and the ability to choose whatever we wanted to do and to be. To me, our inability to faithfully follow his law was a no-brainer for God. Now, what does this have to do with sin? The Hebrew word that is translated sin in our Bibles meant missing the mark. We fall short of obeying God. We fail. We regroup. We try again. And sometimes we even get better over time. God sees all this. He designed our strengths and our weaknesses. He has a certain picture of how we might fulfill our creation, and he holds that out for us as our soul's agenda. But he is never surprised at how we turn out or the choices we make. He is always drawing us towards him if we will but listen to a still small voice within. If we will follow our soul's lead to the intersection of the human and divine within us, the deep soul self, where we will learn how to fulfill our individually designed set of talents and challenges. And God will be with us every step of the way. Apparently, God's chief desire in giving us free will is that it's our choice whether we follow him or not. He wants us to come willingly because it is our heart's desire. The parable of the prodigal son beautifully illustrates this. The father watches for his errant son so that he sees him the minute he approaches the house. The son is experiencing shame and guilt for what he has done, but has decided that in spite of his sins, his life will be better as a servant in his father's house, rather than being a slave to someone else. So the son, like us, wants to take his lumps, because we are all so much more comfortable with punishment than with forgiveness. The father, who is delighted that the son is returning home, no matter what he has done, races out to greet him, throws a big celebration, embraces him, and restores him to his place in the family. Now, here is the crux of the matter for us and the prodigal son or daughter. We are expecting some kind of punishment. After all, we really blew it. But can we even take in the welcome that awaits us when we turn back to God? I think for the most part, we reject the welcome. We would deprive ourselves of the grace and love that God is offering us because, and this is the real reason we have to face, if we allow God to really love and welcome and forgive us, we would also have to allow Him to change us, to bring us to where we can really be His hands and feet and voice in the world. We'd have to allow Him to change us, and we don't want to change. We prefer the half-hearted, lukewarm response to God's love and care for us, so that we don't get lost in serving Him, so that we can control the trajectory of our lives, so that we can stay more in the world than truly attach ourselves to God's purpose for our lives, so that we can have it both ways. We can keep all our material stuff and the cultural paradigm that so engages us, and we can sort of love God, laying our bets on a future in heaven by sort of following His lead. We are the prodigal son's brother, too, hoping that by good behavior we will have our place in God's kingdom. But we're only partially invested in it, and we think that's enough. I have experienced this fear in wanting to stay in the world as the fear of losing myself in serving God. I think this fear is a real threat for us, and yet there's no real basis for it. But that is how we conceive of it. We imagine that God will send us to some far-flung nation, leaving our families behind, where we'll serve others in abject poverty and maybe never come home. In the 1980s, I read a number of biographies of the saints, from Julian of Norwich, Catherine of Siena, Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, and more. Because of their calls, I spent years waiting for some big call for me. I finally decided that God wasn't going to call me to that big a deal, and that I better figure out how to give of myself in everyday transactions, how to be loving and kind and patient in every encounter. So that was fine with me, but now years later, I'm writing and speaking about God and the kingdom, and I'm thinking this is some big calling, a big challenge for me. And in reality, I think I've been right and wrong at the same time all along. I could only project what I feared and desired most, not the reality of what God was calling me to. And I laugh at myself today. The one thing I have learned is that God is calling us according to our gifts and talents and challenges. He wants us to fulfill the promise of our creation. He will meet our needs for everything: food, shelter, companionship, family. He loves us and sees exactly what we need, even though we might be blind to those needs, because our culture is pointing us in a wholly different direction. God loves us, period. Forgives us, supports us, is patient with us, is kind to us, and more. And so God looks at us with love. He does not see us with judgment or unkindness or impatience. He can see through all the surface stuff about us to the deeper, more important movements in our lives, and wants to be a part of those with us. He doesn't see us as deficient or terrible or evil. He sees us as whole people whom He created. He sees us with love. How else could it be with a God who created this whole universe and takes delight in it? He doesn't hold us at arm's length in any of his dealings with us. Let us resolve from now on to allow God fully into our lives and let him show us how much he really cares about us. Will you open your arms and life to him and see what he will provide for you? Will you allow him to love you and allow yourself to love him back? The teaching that we are sinners is a major reason that we hold back from giving our all to God. It keeps us looking for punishment rather than love. It focuses us on the problematic ways of being human rather than on the good or even a balanced view of ourselves. It keeps us in that hurting place where we will never measure up to God's standards. Is this how we want to live? As half-lived people in a full-of-life universe? Never quite belonging, but wishing we did? Are you willing to step into the fullness of what God promises us? Are you willing to take yourself on when you fail? Will you embrace all that you are, all that you were created to be? For this is the test. Will you take in all that God has in store for you as you live into the fullness and wholeness of your creation, to where God wants to take you? For too long we've been satisfied with half-truths and truncated lives. I don't think that Jesus came to suffer because you and I are sinners. I believe that he came to show us how to live in a real relationship to God, how to suffer but in the presence of God, even how to die the 1,000 deaths we experience as human beings on this planet. He shows us how to live by his own example, and he will lead us into a full, rich, integrated life if we will allow him. For us today, it's in the act of surrender to who we are and to our lives as they are, not who we think we should be. In the act of following the Spirit, not our ego. In the act of taking ourselves on when we take a step off the path and making the course correction. In the act of listening always to God's Spirit within and following that voice, that we find our own true selves and God's love and the richness of life. That is the formula for our lives as Jesus lived it and where he would now lead us. Several times in the gospel, Jesus says, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." So it is really up to each of us to hear him calling us and to what he is calling us. We have the God-given ability to hear him, but our ears may be so cluttered with other sounds that we tune him out. Stop that now. Take the first step and set intentions to hear the Christ within. Practice stilling the mind and the louder voices of your psyche so that you can truly hear the Spirit within. It is already calling to you, but you have to want to hear its voice. You have to open yourself up to explore the depths of yourself and get beneath the surface busyness. It is up to you. He's there always. But where are you? Are you with him? Are you listening, heeding, following, obeying? That seems antiquated to us. Who wants to be obedient? But it has its origins in listening. So listen for God's voice. Entertain what it says. Experience the calling in it. Think of what it would mean and then do it. Don't ask that it makes sense or fit into your picture of who you are. Don't limit what it is saying. Find the whole life that is awaiting you. Live fully. Be integrated. Be loving. At peace. This is what is awaiting you in the simple act of listening to the Lord. Thank you for watching. I look forward to hearing from you soon.